Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Weekly Feedback. I'm your host Caveman PRDR. Today we got another short one, not a lot to talk about, so we'll get started with it. And we'll get started with the Welcome to Pride at Bungie dev blog that they released earlier this week, referring to the Pride and Trans teams at Bungie. For those that work there, and basically Bungie's backing and supporting of the LGBTQ plus community. At the beginning, kind of goes over some things and refers to the 69 Stonewall riots. Below that, there's a emote as well with an actual code to be given away for the emote code and for the transmat code. Below that, there's a pin and an emblem that you can get when donating and supporting the It Gets Better project. If you donate to it, 100% of the proceeds go to it, and I believe you can earn this pin and these emblems, which I actually think look kind of cool. So, donating to the It Gets Better project for that community. Now we'll talk about update 7.1.0.2 for Crucible. They fixed an issue where the dazzling iridescence trials emblem could be awarded after flawless chest without completing the necessary requirements. So for those that have earned it before, unfortunately you're going to have to go back and earn it again. Below that, Raids and Dungeons fixed an issue where players can damage the Ghost of the Deep final boss, through the immunity shield. Gameplay and investment. Gear Falcon's reserved overshield now deploys when a player uses Ensnaring Slam. Fixed an issue where Kefri's Horn could disable various non-enemy objects. Fixed an issue where Vesper Radius's effects were triggering on things other than casting a rift. Fixed an issue where Point Contact Cannon Brace could create lightning strikes on melees other than Thunderclap. Fixed an issue where Becoming Frozen would disable Arbor Warden's exotic perk. Fixed an issue where Arbor Warden would cause the Juggernaut aspect to not interact with your class ability energy correctly. Fixed an issue causing Sunbracers not to improve solar grenades. Fixed an issue causing Helm of Saint 14 not to provide any effects. Fixed an issue causing Verity's Brow to not function in PvP. Fixed an issue causing non-backup plans to buff non-shotgun damage in certain situations. Fixed an issue where Athrus's Embrace buff icon wasn't appearing on the heads-up display in PvP. The artifact perks amped up, and electric armor no longer have their perk names switched, so those should be in the correct place now. Fixed an issue where some older Iron Banner special power weapons had lost their scope glint. Fixed an issue where purchasing Last Wish Deep Sight weapon from Hawthorne would unintentionally award bonus pattern progress on top of progress provided by consuming the Deep Sight on the weapon itself. Increased the size of the red dot on Mercurial Overreach's scope to respond in response to players' feedback. This was a huge change. I've played with Mercurial Overreach since Friday, and it has been an awesome change. Reduce collective action weapon perks damage against Guardians to 10%, down from 20%. Change the Navigator's intrinsic trait icon. Abilities fixed an issue where certain thrown projectiles were able to over-penetrate allied Titan barricades. Fixed an issue where arc jolt damage to minor combatants was lower than intended following the scaling changes in 7.1.0. Converse Eververse. Fixed an issue where the Twitch sub bounty emblem Pulsar approaching was not reacquirable or equipable. Triumphs. The second Reckoning Triumphs now displays correct weapon names. The Spin Salvage Keys Triumphs now correctly progresses when a salvage key is spent instead of erroneously progressing the Spend Deep Dives Key Triumph. Fixed an issue where the Ambitious Anger Triumph, where all players were getting credit for one player catching an exotic fish. General weekly challenges for Vanguard Ops and Gambit now reward the correct number of exotic engrams, re-enabling Tier 1 exotic focusing on Master Raoul. So that is 7.1.2. I'll leave that down in the comments below for everyone to look at. And now we'll go over the This Week in Destiny. Now, This Week in Destiny, The very first part of it talks about pride and trends at Bungie teams, and it refers to the dev blog we looked at earlier. And basically, below that, the main meat of this article really was to talk about some of the frequently asked questions asked to the Destiny 2 official team Twitter account, and basically had devs come back and answer these questions. So in PvE, ability uptime is very high and increased despite global changes to base cooldowns. What are the current thoughts on ability energy economy? It's always an area of concern. While we don't have any sweeping changes to announce today, this is a continual area to focus for. Destiny's identity is fundamentally rooted on space, magic, power fantasies, but we don't want ability uptime to balloon to a point where there's a power spike from active abilities ceasing to become a spike and becoming the norm. So they didn't really have any more thought on further reducing ability cooldowns at this time. Aspects, armor mods, artifact perks that rely on players being able to throw or destroy the created tangles cooldowns can feel frustrating. Frustrating was the intent of the tangle creation cooldown time, and are there any plans to revisit it? In Season 22, we are currently planning on reducing the tangle cooldown time from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. So that's interesting. Bloodweavers were intended to be minion masters of Strand, but Threadlings can feel underwhelming in high-end content, especially with the potency of Suspend. Are there any plans to adjust the relationship going forward? So I believe they said for Season 22, we are implementing a sizable increase in Threadling damage against PvE targets and reducing the duration and uptime of Suspend sources in PvE. So Suspend's getting a nerf, and Threadling damage is getting a buff in Season 22. How does the team feel about the current suite of grenades? For Season 22, we're making some small adjustments to the uptime of a few underperforming grenade options. As we move forward, we'll continue to evaluate and adjust both overperforming and underperforming options as needed for the health of the sandbox. Can wheel hand cannons get a buff? Not quite the Shadowkeep levels, but at least something. They are basically planning on buffing hand cannons, increase reload speed at 0 stat by 15%. Benefit scales down at increasing stat with 100 stat being unchanged. So that is going to be a pretty substantial buff. PvE damage, increased damage against miners or red bars by 20%, and increased damage against majors, orange bars by 75%. Heavy burst hand cannons changed the Warden's Law legendary hand cannon to be the first member of this new sub-archetype, the heavy burst hand cannon. Fires a 2-round burst and is overall very much more satisfying to use than the previous version, while still benefiting from some of the unique properties of the original. So be on the lookout for this new archetype. This gives Bungie free reign to make a new series of hand cannons to go along with Warden's Law. So be on the lookout for that. How does the team feel about the current state of glaives, and what about the exotics? There's going to be a substantial glaive tuning pass coming in a future season, currently slated for Season 23, aiming to make them use more satisfying, particularly in PvP. Not happy with the current state of the class exotic glaives, and plan on making some changes to them as well during Season 23. So we'll see how that goes. How do you determine what gets nerfed and what gets buffed? Do these parameters change over a season? Just some comment on the persistence of Bungie balances on usage narrative. This is not the case, see below, but note that if something is wildly overused, in many cases, that's because it's both strong and very easy to use. Players typically won't flock to a specific weapon in droves if it's perfectly balanced. When we're deciding what to do for balance pass, we look at 5 main sources of information to determine the identity of what we sought to look at. First one is player feedback from play testing. Second one is live feedback sources from players' weapon usage. Third is weapon effectiveness. Fourth is design analysis from the implementation of the weapon. Fourth is having pulled together a list of weapons. We'll go through them and identify what's contributing to the issues. In some cases, it's innate to the weapon itself and we'll adjust it, but in other cases, it's a specific perk combo. The overall weapon type rather than the single weapon or lack of competition, and we can address the issue without touching the weapon in question. And the fifth one, yes, some of the logic for which weapons gets attention changes depending on the focus of the season. If we have a high representation of a weapon type in the seasonal artifact, we're shipping several newer reprised weapons on a specific type, or encourages that play well with a specific weapon type. We'll dig into the matching weapons to make sure they perform well with the seasonal focus from other teams. Any further exotic tuning planned for the future, and what are the thoughts process behind those planned changes? We have a small set of changes to exotic weapons coming in Season 22, and we've been play testing for the last few months, including long-awaited PvP nerf to Lay Monarch, buff to Touch of Malice, a couple of minor changes to other exotics, and some tweaks to legendary perks like Bipod, Shoot, Loot, Under, Over. Also bear in mind that the zoom to damage fall off normalization and sword guard rework are coming in Season 22 and affect exotic weapons as well. We will see how that's going to go. That's going to be something to look forward to, especially the damage fall off normalization. That's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be a big change for a lot of weapons. Exotic armor and build crafting. My favorite exotic armor could use a buff, and he plans to continue balancing legacy exotic armor. And see, like they said before, you can look forward to the next batch of changes in Season 22. Can you explain the most recent Stompy changes? Stompies provide a great neutral game benefit that excels in PvP and have potential to make it very difficult to target a hunter wearing them, thanks to the unique nature of the hunter jump, which allows for rapid direction changes in midair. Our goal was to make them feel a little less free so that the wearer can still gain their benefit, but with a small amount of downtime each time that the players use the dodge, which itself provides numerous benefits since the armor mods key off to the usage of your class ability. That being said, we'll continue to monitor how Stompies is performing and make further changes as necessary. Basically, double downing on their reasoning for this. Changed what they said how it was last time. It's interesting that they have decided to double back on their reasoning this time. Are there any plans for more exotic armor interactions with exotic weapons like necrotic grips and weapons of sorrow? Feel that these are special connections and are best when rare and slightly hidden, so that'll be interesting to see. With that being said, we would like to add more to the game, especially for Hunters and Titans. Keep an eye out in the future. Will we ever see any pre-Lightfall armor mods come back? And below that, paying attention to how current the armor mod system is performing as well as being received. Our goal is that the base armor mods are straightforward and approachable. We do want to experiment with fun with novel ways to interact with Orbs of Power, Armor Charge, and other armor mod systems, and plan doing so in the seasonal artifact. And the miscellaneous questions below that include regarding shaders and UI UX updates, and those are going to be answered fairly soon by the shaders and UI teams. Below that is Do It for Salad and the Sweet Sweet Emblem, so it's referring to Iron Banner coming back this upcoming week and being able to earn this emblem. I actually got it on the first week, and it is a very, very good looking emblem. It's probably one of the better looking emblems in the game, so I'm glad I have it. I'm glad that I have Iron Lord Gilded. This upcoming session of Iron Banner is going to be Eruption, so you will see me play it as little as possible. Below that, your Winter Guardian. So this is actually going to be the Drown in the Deep fashion contest, and this hunter looks kind of like an Acolyte. It's actually kind of a sick armor. So yeah. And then we've got the classic Titan drip. We like to see these. Oh, we have this Jim Carrey type one that's the mask. It's pretty neat. Kind of like this one. This one was one I saw earlier this week. I thought was pretty cool looking. We have a Yoda one as well for the Warlocks. So a little bit taller than Yoda should be, but it's still a pretty good looking outfit. And then below that, they talk about the PlayStation crossover and some of the artwork inspired by it. Below that is the player support report. Below that is the Trials of Osiris emblem. Below that are known issues, including dexterity mods are not granting a benefit to weapon and ready stow speed. This one is very, very important. So for those of you that are using dexterity mods right now, for some reason it does not work, and it's very unfortunate. Below that is movie of the week, and then below that is artists of the week. And that's going to be it for this week's episode of the Weekly Feedback. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comments. Thank you, and as always, have a good one.